Teams can be self-directed. Sometimes it depends who you have together, and it depends if they're all around one task. If they work well together over a period of time, you can minimize a lot of confusion and conflict. Here's an example of a couple of doctors. If you have a couple of doctors and you're the patient and you were having surgery, you don't want them to be arguing while they're cutting you with a scalpel. Well, I wanted to cut. You cut last time, and you're laying there with the anesthetic mask, and you're watching it go back and forth. It's my turn. Now you do the stitches this time. Well, your stitches were really bad last time. I couldn't believe how you're hearing all this. You're being, I think I want to go. You want to make certain on the self-directed team that they actually talk to each other and they know what's going on. Here's kind of a definition of a self-directed team. A medical team is actually pretty good because of the fact that you will have a group of 3 to 7 people that work day in, day out, some pretty critical issues, and man, that communication has to be really good. But it also has to be good if you're doing all kinds of things other than that, whether it's mechanical, whether it's sales, whatever you're doing, make certain that it's an entire piece of work. Everybody has their task and they know the task and you can trust them to do it. They have autonomy over the decisions on their task and how they're going about doing it, provided they're communicating. Make certain they're all grouped around the work process. Some of the self-directed teams, some of the factors that research has shown really lead to success. The whole team is responsible for the entire work process. Aston Martin, they're known for the fact that they have expensive cars, but they work as a team to assemble them. They don't have a regular assembly line. They have a room and the parts are there and the team all grabs parts and they all put it together. You have a beautiful handcrafted car that costs a small fortune. So if the whole work process, they're all responsible and they all have a huge amount of knowledge what each other does, and they have a high interdependence. They have a low interdependence with other teams because they have their own teams. They have an autonomy to organize and coordinate their work. Say, well, you got this, well, I got this. Okay, work site technology support team and so on. One time I was watching a group of contractors working and they came in, and this is not high-level stuff. They're window contractors. They came rolling right in, and so they had 2 guys removing the old stuff. In the meantime, another group of guys was grabbing the new stuff, bringing it to the location. So as the people are taking the old windows out, the other team is already framing the work to make sure the new windows fit, and the third team is bringing the windows and lining up, and the fourth team actually turned into teams 2 and 3, and they're putting the new windows in. In the meantime, the other one, they knew what they were doing. It was very comfortable. The workflow was incredible to watch this group of guys sitting, going through, installing the whole thing. They were a self-directed team. The boss showed up, the boss left. Nothing changed because of the fact that he just kind of checked to see that they were all there. They were all there, and man, they worked well because they were a self-directed team, and you could tell that they liked some of the work they were doing. It just depends whether it's anything from windows to heart surgery. Self-directed teams are wonderful to watch when they're all in sync and harmony. Sometimes you have remote teams. Back at the turn of the century in 2000, you had the very first car that actually went from the design pages to actual manufacturing in less than 2 years. It was a Chrysler Viper. The Viper went, and they had a task team in Auburn Hills, Michigan. They start working on the Viper there. At the end of the workday, they would ship their blueprints over to India. And in India, a team of engineers would go through and pick that up. When they finished their ship, they would send it to Germany, and then the Germans would work on it, and then the Germans would ship it to Americans. They actually had 24/7 design, and they were finished with the design in 12 months. They actually had production in 17 months. It's the fastest ever at that point. They had virtual teams that on a global basis, it was the first time you ever saw real global manufacturing taking place. In the aspect, they had to overcome all kinds of barriers because you'd have different languages, different notations. So they kept everything primarily to numbers and pictures, and did their best to keep language off the prints in the process. It was incredible to watch that happening. I happened to actually be in the building across the street from Auburn Hills where they actually did this work. It was incredible. So sometimes you have geographic dispersion, which is now very common. a large percentage of workers will work apart. You'll have some people working home, some people communicating on Zoom, some people in a different country, some people sitting in an airport. Now, the percentage of time that members work apart is much higher, which is why you have to have a better communication system. Members need to pay attention to the 5 C's and be reminded of them on a regular basis. That's why we named them all C's. Okay, and then sometimes it's free to use a toolkit of communication channels, and you're already experienced with that, anything from different types of social media to texting to DMing to email to whatever you need to do to get the job done. And you have to have a good task structure. And I always recommend, whenever you have the opportunity, meet face to face. I had somebody running the team out of Texas, and they happened to go to California, and I said, make certain you stop in at that hospital there and meet your team members in the accounting department, because just because you're running the accounting from Texas doesn't mean that it won't be good to have that face-to-face touch. That's always an excellent touch to make certain, even if it's once a year or twice a year, put some humanity behind these remote communications. A lot of decision-making constraints, there's time constraints, pay attention to that for people. There's an evaluation apprehension. I don't know about you. I don't like evaluations. I don't like doing them. I don't like receiving them. But regardless, there's apprehension. You want to have that human connection during that time period. A lot of times there's peer pressure to conform to make certain that everybody is on the same page. And that's healthy. Sometimes just depends as to making certain what conformity really means. And sometimes you have this whole team with an inflated efficacy, they're overconfident about trusting the people on there. Make certain there's check and balances, that you don't have one person full of hot air continually dominating meetings. Pay attention. Sometimes it could be you. Sometimes it could be the team leader. Have the checks and balances, and you don't want to have an individual dominate all the dialogue and ramrod their ideas through. A team is about making certain you're tapping into that mindset diversity. Maintain an optimal team size. If somebody doesn't need to be done anymore, you may want to say, okay, here we have this over here, these 2 people. Okay, we finished your part. Is there anything more you want to contribute? No? Okay, thank you very much for your service. If we need you available, fine, thank you. And then send them off, and don't waste their time. Encourage team confidence, but be wary of overconfidence. Make certain the team norms, that you have a norm to sit down there and be able, if you're about to go down a bad pathway, the team members feel free to speak up. Support psychological safety, whatever that means to your team, and then use team structures that encourage creativity. Brainstorming. If you do brainstorming well, I'm telling you, this is a super powerful creative idea. I've done this anywhere from having numerous charts around a room with little stickers. You put the stickers on the ones that people want to do. But on brainstorming, in essence, you bring your team together and you talk about the problem you want to solve, and then everybody goes through and you have a little sticky note. It's not a big deal. You can see that in the picture here. You have a sticky note and everybody puts an idea how to solve that down. The ideas can be crazy and wacky and totally undoable. It doesn't matter. During the brainstorming period, you just put it up there and nobody criticizes. The rule is, don't criticize ideas and have as many ideas as possible. Then when everybody's done and nobody can think of anything else, then you go through, you look at them and you start organizing the brainstorming ideas into different groups, different types of things. And sometimes you're going to see, it depends how many ideas you have, that some of the ideas duplicate each other or almost duplicate each other. So start merging ideas together. And then once you have them all categorized by different styles of brainstorming, then, and you consolidate as many as you can, then you sit down, then you get involved in the details. How much does it cost? How long would it take? What's the problem? Then you analyze it, but you want to sit down on the brainstorming, do all the brainstorming before you criticize. You really should have an experienced facilitator to do that. You should also have competent employees. And the reason why is because once you get past the initial brainstorming, people will criticize different ideas. You don't want to have people becoming upset that their ideas were savaged by somebody else. You have to have a thick skin once you get past the brainstorming, and make certain that you have a psychological safety culture. I had one facilitator didn't know how to facilitate very well. I had somebody break into tears during one of the meetings, and then we ended up coming out of it well, but you had to get past that part because somebody's idea, they were fighting too hard for it. Sometimes you do brainwriting, which is brainstorming without conversation. Slap, 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 slap. You put stuff up, and then let people start merging their ideas together. Okay. There's less production blocking than brainstorming. Electronic brainstorming, sometimes you do exactly the same thing with technology, and you sit around in a circle with computers, and you just sit there and toss idea, and then you keep on building on each other. That's a lot of fun to do it that way, because you actually you're using a wiki usually, and you're all on the same document. You can see people start typing, and all of a sudden you see something changing up here and everything else. It's a really interesting thing. Or brainwriting at a verbal stage. So it depends what you have on the aspect of how you brainstorm. But self-directed teams, they're wonderful when you have them functioning, especially on the brainstorming aspect. But cross-functional teams make certain they're functioning around the work process, complete the entire work, but make certain to do that everybody has the independent tasks that they're responsible for. And also, as a self-directed team, they have autonomy over the task decisions. On the brainstorming, speak freely, don't criticize ideas, provide ideas, and contribute to an overall pool of them, and then build upon those same ideas to make it even better before you sit down there and start adopting them or getting down to the specific process on the brainstorming. Self-directed teams, they're wonderful when they're functioning right. They can be chaos when they aren't, and that's why a lot of good communication needs to take place to build an excellent self-directed team. Take care.